there's been a tremendous war against not only the simple pleasures and the simple morals. I mean, it's a moral war. When I talk about the war on consciousness, we're talking about an all-out war against virtue, against standards. Ayn Rand said that the man who cannot see evil as evil eventually will not even be able to see good as good. In other words, his entire moral base will be shattered. There'll be so many splinter groups and fringe sects and so many belief systems and so much stimuli that the mind will literally freeze and shut down. And this is what's happening to the teens, not only with the medication and everything else, and the mercury and what have you, but it literally is the overstimulation. And then they put up false models on the usual sitcoms and television programs that you start to slowly identify with. First you laugh at it, think it's silly, and then the next thing you're identifying with it. And that colors your own personal life. And you divorce the divorced person, right? The person who is less of a self. I mean, we've been talking about the mechanized man, the technocratic man. That is a humanless man. And so a man who's lost his own reason, who's lost his own humanity, can hardly treat his neighbors or his children in a human way. He doesn't even see them as people or persons anymore. He sees them as a possession. In other words, he becomes a little tyrant in his own family unit, as the big brother is a tyrant over him. He ceases to relate to his own children or his wife or his husband as a person. And it's just it's an appendage. It's a piece of furniture. And this is what is happening. Then, of course, the teens will rebel against that because they demand to be treated as people. And when they're not, then they will become fractured and fragmented and apathetic as we see them being today. And it's the loss of the core values which these Fabians and these, ministers of the British Crown and whoever else you want to put in the picture here have been working wonders through their different institutes, of which many I could name, in this country and throughout the whole world. The whole world is becoming globalized. We were shooting in the Balkans. Part of our film was shot in Macedonia and also in Serbia in the earlier part of this year. And we saw the same thing there. We saw the same dehumanization there and the same sort of corporatization of the entire world and the same psychopathy. So it's not just, common to one country. It's all over the world. It's becoming this way.
Where are we headed? Who's behind this? And how do we stop it?
Well, Jerry, that's a very deep question. And, I think that it's very, very important for us to start to examine how we personally bring about, each individual brings about the kind of life that they experience. Because it really is a subjective thing. And the miracle, we're not seeing that the sorcerers who rule us, right, have made sure that we lose sight of the magic, if you allow me to use those terms. There's the magic, and then there's the sorcery of life. And they are sorcerers, they are possessed, they're very, they talk a lot about order, but they are the most disorganized people psychically, or spiritually, if you want to call it, and morally. And they want the world to be in a state of chaos because they feel good in that state, you see? And they want us to also follow suit. So, just like Joseph Campbell said, you have to find your bliss. You have to find the magic starting with your own life. You have to breathe deeply. You have to look at the light. You have to enter into relationships with knowledge, not just gain knowledge. You have to love the adventure of gaining knowledge about this. See it as a journey. Go into the dark places, turn on the light, and get familiar with that. Get familiar with the knowledge and become articulate and also eloquent in it, and see it as a beautiful journey, not as a chore. And turn the light on in your own life. This is fundamental. And when you do that, you will find your guide. You will find the guidance, and you will find the guide, and you will find a new sense of selfhood. So it's not about political action at all, in my reading. Of course, if there's another person you're talking to, they'd say something different. But as far as I'm concerned, it's about totally know thyself. It's so old, it's new. You know what I'm saying? And that's basically what it's about. It's about discovering why you are here on this planet, what your true purpose is, and how you really cannot change good or evil. Those are realities, and they'll be here after you're gone, and they were here before we were born. But what you can change is your attitude towards those realities. You can change your perception of them and your attitude towards those things. And that is a huge step, just doing that alone.
You talk about the elites have two different camps, and I like what you say here. One is they want to keep mankind ignorant. They want to keep us stupid. And the other is they want us to accept this plan of theirs and to go along with the beat.
They have many camps, but they split into two main groups. There are those Orwellians and those Bertrand Russell School, Malthus, Thomas Hobbes types who just go, look, he's primitive. He's our creation. He's a genetic hybrid. Keep him in ignorance. Don't give him any perks. Keep him in a total state of servitude. And by the way, that's what they've been doing all through the previous ages of the earth. But then they have this other, quote-unquote, enlightened group of despots who go, no, 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 we needn't do that. What we need to do is tutor them, educate them, condition them, colonize them, train them like dogs to accept our global village. Instead of chains of iron, chains of gold. And that's what this technological dystopia that's coming is. Basically, that's what it is. It's another form of incarceration, but it's one in which you can live out your wildest fantasies. You can replicate the unconscious. You can have anything that you want at your disposal. You're still a slave, but we have made it smiling depressive. We're no longer going to keep you in a complete state of, troglodytism. We're going to sort of give you a lot of, we're going to put a lot of different distractions, the breads and circuses that these people like the Aldous Huxleys, you see, have basically said. And you get two choices. It's like that policeman in England. They used to have the cop, with the white armbands that steer the traffic.
Yeah.
And he'll block cars from going down one way where you're not meant to go down, but he'll wave traffic down another direction in which they want you to go. That's who they've employed. And the people's champions that work for these guys, that's what they're doing. They're saying, we will give you first-class tickets and a scenic route to your new prison.
Interesting analogy.
Like I said to Sherry earlier when she asked that great question, it's a journey. And I undertook that, coming out of Ireland's no pleasant experience. Seeing these, actions of imperialism and colonialism firsthand is a very frightening thing and a daunting thing. But you have to transform that. You have to, like Joseph Campbell said, attach to the bliss, look at it as a journey of enlightenment. We talked earlier about it not being really separate from your journey of enlightenment. This is what it's all about. But it's not about gaining knowledge. It's about entering into a relationship with knowledge in the same way that you do with a lover or with a very deep, intimate, person in physical form. Well, knowledge is no different, So for me, it was the journey of coming and listening to, the Ralph Eppersons and the Dr. Stan Monteiths, and many of the guests that, have come on your show. And I'm still doing it. I read 10 books a month. I haven't reached the end. It's a continual journey, But again, what I try to not do myself is tunnel vision. Like I said, I lay down. I try to get my arms around all of the information that I can. But then I lay it down, and I revisit it again, or I go over here, and I go over there. And I take the time, because there are no shortcuts with this. This is a very deep matter. And to me, like as I said, it happened early, but the pieces of the puzzle were not properly put in until I heard what Jordan had to say about astrotheology and about, the mercantile banking, the whole idea of, the maritime law and all those things that he teaches.
Yeah.
And then, going on to G. Edward Griffin and Eustace Mullins and so many other great teachers here, who were really had the history. And I love that. I love the fact that they went back into time and that they also had a historical context, especially people like Lyndon LaRouche, with the tremendous knowledge that he has about the ancestry going back into Italy and London and England, and this really is fascinating to me because this architecture, the architects are reborn every 5 minutes. I mean, they always have a new coterie. But the architecture of control itself is very, very ancient,
Do you agree that most people are good people?
Well, George Carlin said, if you think everybody's good, you haven't met everybody. So,
See, I do.
I
mean, I take that perspective that most individuals are good people.
Well, like I said to Sherry, or was it Austin before that you can't change you can't change good and evil itself. Everyone has good and evil within them, even the worst person. And again, going back to psychology, what made them like that? Every single person who chooses to go towards the alien within them, it's a conscious choice. Everyone who wants to go towards the evil in them, it's a conscious choice. But it may have been some kind of primal wound that someone else inflicted upon them, when they were young and innocent and good,
Sure.
that demented them and twisted them, So again, the examination of that, if you don't get into it emotionally, then you start looking at it and you say, my goodness, something beautiful, something natural, something, very, very pristine, and something ultimately perfect got warped, by a particular primal trauma or a great sense of hurt that skewed a person from the right track. It's no different with humanity. So absolutely, people have good and evil within them. It's ludicrous to imagine otherwise. And of course, how can a person like me be talking endlessly about people doing their shadow work if I don't accept that I have a shadow, that, we all have a shadow, and we need to be looking at that. It goes without saying that, of course, we do have that shadow. We have to acknowledge it. That's the biggest problem of the world today, is that people refuse to do that. They rather project their shadow on the third world or on an enemy over there or any three-headed monsters that the government throws up to be rattling the gates of our security. They know how to work with this. They know how to get us to project our own dark selves onto whoever the nemesis is for the particular season, that these politicians want to bring it up.